Next up on the docket is another Sony product. It's PSVR 2. They finally showed off and announced the price for the PSVR 2 adapter for PC. And I want to start by asking this question from Andre Surlis, not Audie Surly, but Andre Surlis, who says, did Sony just kill the PSVR 3 by switching the onus of VR to PC? Oliver, Alex?
Well, I'm just going to say there's probably no PSVR 3 anyway, regardless of this thing, because it's not been successful enough for them. And they, as they showed in the recent showcase, it doesn't seem like they're doing first-party games anymore from Sony that are going to be PSVR 2 targeting. So I just think it doesn't have an immediate future for them in the way they might have hoped after PSVR 1, you know? So I think that, but I don't think this will do much of it. I'm actually so disappointed with this. I don't think this product's going to do much of anything, actually.
I think that's a little harsh. I think it's a nice option to have. If somebody owns a headset, this basically opens them up to PC games, right?
Sure, it's an interesting addition, I guess, if you already own it.
It's a better headset than a lot of PC VR headsets as well.
But, so that's the thing. So this is where we have to get into the technical specifications, because it's better than a lot of PC headsets because of XYZ feature.
But not necessarily, though. Even if you strip those features out, it's still better.
Well, I mean, but you're not getting the things that actually it does that are more interesting than left or right or other headsets you get out there.
I agree. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying, like, see, to me, this seems like a really poorly thought out product, because it's not taking advantage of the things that the initial PSVR 2 was advertised for and known for doing and is capable of. Like, it won't be shipping with HDR. It won't be shipping with adaptive triggers, which is something we talked about actually when they originally was, like, this was being floated in rumors that it's going to be happening. And I was saying, like, well, they don't support adaptive triggers wirelessly on PC through a Sony driver for the DualSense. Will they support it here? Because it is possible to actually do that on a technical level, but they just don't do it for some reason. And then they're shipping this and they're not going to support it. They're also, the reason why they're not supporting things like HDR seems to be a bizarre technical limitation that they've introduced into this adapter by making it be DisplayPort 1.4. I feel like we were just talking about HDMI 2.1. I feel like this adapter would have been way better as an HDMI 2.1 adapter, because most people that have PCs are actually probably connecting their PCs to their monitor via DisplayPort, because that is the common standard. Yep. I know DisplayPort 2.0 is not found through every device out there, but HDMI 2.1 has, at least since Ampere and RDNA 2, been on everything. And those would be the power level feature set that you'd probably want to support. And I feel like HDR should be capable, but they just decided, seems a little bit arbitrary to me to just support DisplayPort 1.4.
Well, DisplayPort for 1.4 could handle it, though. That's the thing. It has the bandwidth to do it.
Yeah, it's maybe not at the native res, though.
No,
I don't know.
It has the same bandwidth limitation as the PS5 itself, which is 32 gigabits per second.
Well, then I'm
right?
beyond at this point. Well, not sure why.
Yeah.
So the bandwidth is there. It's 1.4 isn't really necessarily the limiting factor here. They just made some strange decisions, I would say. I was also annoyed by that at first, but then the more I thought about it, it's like, look, there's a lot of headsets on PC. This is going to go through Steam VR like most other headsets. Most games in VR don't support these features, and it's unlikely that developers are going to put time into adding PSVR 2 specific features to games that are in not in most other headsets. Right?
Like, are there any PC VR headsets that support HDR?
Does the let me just, I reviewed the Pimax Crystal, and that was extremely bright, but I can't remember if that's HDR and VR is like pretty much like a super rare thing. And here's the thing about it, though. I liked the idea of HDR in VR at first, but I've actually come around to the fact that it's not actually that good of a thing in most cases. The reason being, the brighter you drive these panels, the worse the persistence blur becomes. So PSVR 2 especially, if you play this at full brightness, you get awesome HDR, but if you move your head around and stuff's moving around, there is persistence blur, just like you'd expect from like a modern TV without black frame insertion or anything. It's very blurry in motion. The Quest 3, of course, uses an LCD, but it drives it really hard, and Meta has figured out how to solve the motion problem. And as confirmed by Blurbusters as well, the Quest 3 delivers perfect motion. There is no visible blur at all. It is 100% perfect. It looks phenomenal. So the motion clarity there is really high. The problem though is that they use LCDs. They're able to drive it in such a way that they're basically overcoming, they're driving, I think, the panels bright, but they're sort of, you lose that brightness because of the way they have to strobe the LCD, right? If you try to achieve that on the OLED panels in the PSVR 2, it would become very, very dim, I think. So they can't realistically do that. But it does give me some hope on the PC that if you play games natively at 120 hertz, you turn the brightness down, it's not HDR, that you can achieve better motion clarity on the PSVR 2 than what you get natively on a PS5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm usually not sensitive to motion blur on panels, or too sensitive to
You're
motion
lucky,
blur on
dude.
panels.
Let me tell you.
Yeah. But I will say that with the PSVR 2, and with the earlier PSVR, but especially with the PSVR 2, for whatever reason, I did notice that persistence.
It's quite obvious.
Whereas with my MetaQuest 3, it's very smooth.
Right, it's perfect, right?
It's
like, there is no motion
It's basically
blur.
perfect.
It is.
Exactly. So, yeah, I think that, I don't know, the PSVR 2 is maybe not that fantastic of a headset, especially when you strip some of these features out. I do wonder a little bit, with the pretty high resolution of these displays, exactly how easy this will be to drive with a typical GPU without the foveated rendering through eye tracking, right? That could be a bit of a concern.
I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be any different than driving, like, say, a Quest 3 on your PC, right?
Yeah, similar,
isn't it
right?
a bit higher? Is it similar resolution?
I think Quest 3 is higher res than the PSVR 2.
Oh, okay.
Different refresh rates, though, right?
And, well, it can do anything. It can do up to 120
Okay.
hertz on the Quest 3.
The basic idea, though, that I was trying to communicate earlier is that I feel like this is just like, if you already own a PSVR 2 and have a PS5 and also happen to have a capable PC, this is like a nice addition, but it doesn't do anything to broaden the market or entice PC only players to get it. I still think you should get a MetaQuest 3, like, if you're really into PC VR.
Completely
so
agree.
like, so I feel like I don't like, I'm really curious about, like, they're always talking about expanding the PS5 market from like a CEO perspective and stuff, or like expanding the Sony market, whatever that means. But like, this doesn't do anything for that, I don't think.
No, I think this is more like a, well, we need to give this value to the customers kind of thing, because the PSVR, it does have support, but not like huge amounts of support. And there are actually good games on there for sure. But like, this is basically like, okay, you own a PSVR 2, go ahead and use it on your PC as well, so you can access all these other VR games, which I think is not a bad thing to offer to customers.
It is giving up a bit. It is like
sure
a concession prize, I think.
But still,
especially with like the new Astrobot game doesn't even support a VR mode, which is crazy.
So I think the reason there is more like the original Astrobot was really made around VR. And I think just like grafting VR support onto a pancake game would not work. I actually did confirm real quick the resolution thing. So PSVR 2 is 2000 by 2040 per eye. MetaQuest 3 is 2064 by 2208 by eye, so 2208.
Oh, okay.
So the Quest 3 is higher res than the PSVR 2 as well. And it does 120 hertz from your PC if you go all the way. Though I actually think 90 hertz is kind of the best choice for Quest 3 for battery considerations. So there it is. I mean, it's cool that they're offering support. It's a bummer that they're not adding those extra features. But at the same time, like I said, I understand it to some degree, because who's going to code in those features just for the PSVR 2 headsets on PC? Probably not anybody, or very few.
Well, I mean, it could be for those games that, like we just saw last week. There are a lot of ports from PC. So like it feels like it could become a thing, and they could do it, but they just didn't.
Yeah. So that's a bummer thing then.